Next, we have Luke Telfer from Boise State University.
I spent 5 years as a wildland firefighter and know firsthand how destructive fires can be. But for those of us living in the West, you don't need to have spent hot 16-hour days digging line to understand the impact. We have to deal with smoky skies making it hard to breathe, our favorite outdoor haunts turning into shells of their former selves, and in some cases, the destruction of our homes and communities. And for fires occurring in mountainous areas like those above Boise where I live, the danger doesn't end when the fire's out and the crews have gone home. You see, by removing vegetation and damaging the soil, fire makes it easier for water to move along the surface and harder for it to soak in, potentially leading to severe floods or debris flows during the next big rainstorm as the water flows and converges and builds. Just look at Montecito, California, where in 2018, post-fire mudslides destroyed hundreds of homes and killed 21 people. Some of the aftermath is shown in the photo on the right. Now, there are some things that we can do to try and prevent or at least mitigate these catastrophes, like constructing barriers or applying mulch to slow runoff and erosion. But these things can be pretty expensive and resources are limited, especially compared to the amount of land burned every year. So in order to figure out the best places to use them, we need to know a lot more about how water moves through a burned landscape. And this is a challenge because fires are messy. One place might get burned to a crisp, while another right next to it makes it through relatively untouched, resulting in complex patterns of different burn severities, with some areas acting as slip and slides and others as giant sponges. So even though we know in general that severe fire increases the risk of flooding and debris flows, it's still really hard to predict what's going to happen without understanding the role that these spatial patterns play. But how do you study this? You can't directly compare different fires because they happen in different terrain or in different years with different weather. You can try to reproduce various patterns with controlled burns, but this is only going to really work at small scales. And even then, the high burn severities that do the most damage don't really come from controllable fires. So for my research, I found a way to represent these patterns at a large scale while also keeping the location, weather, and overall severity the same. Basically, I reconstruct a watershed using satellite measurements and then use physics equations to track where the water goes from raindrop to stream flow. Then I add a fire and run the model over and over again, mixing up the burn pattern each time like a Rubik's Cube. This allows me to see how water movement changes with different configurations and whether plugging up certain points can drastically reduce runoff. Information that could help determine when and where post-fire treatments would be most effective in preventing disaster. Thank you.
Thank you. So when you're describing that, I sort of envision you as like a gamer, putting all this stuff in and playing around with it and doing everything. Is that what it's like?
You know what? You're not far off sometimes. It kind of feels that way.
What got you interested in this other than fighting fires? Did you foresee that you'd end up in this kind of research when you were doing the firefighting, or was that later?
Not exactly. Not exactly. I guess what I found was I was very interested in researching fire. But the more I was looking into it, the more I was trying to predict things. And eventually I just really got interested in modeling because that's how you're going to try to predict things. So
Right, exactly. So what classes did you take that really started forming this idea?
Oh, I think one of the best classes I took to really form this particular idea, I took a spatial ecology class that was talking about different kinds of ecological patterns and how you measure them and all these different things. And it's really, man, I need to do this with fires. Like,
well, I don't know if you were in Boise when they had the big fire that came so close to the community a few years back that they had to fight. And I just wonder if you get out in areas like that have just been burned and have a chance to see it on the front lines.
Yeah, so I did a lot in my firefighting experience was in Nevada, and I think outside of Elko, I did a fire basically that was burning through some of the edges of Elko, and you know, it's devastating to see what happens to the communities. You know, just doing what you can, but there's not a lot you can always do with the fires.
Right. Well, I appreciate this work and I know we all do. So thanks for sharing with us today and good luck.
Thank you.